every single episode is going to be live.
Every town has a ghost story that's been passed down throughout the generations. But what if those legends are true? My job is to travel to these destinations, explore them, and figure out the mystery that lies within.
Hey everyone, happy Thursday night. You are watching the Ghost Biker Garage live, and we are actually doing Behind the Screams tonight. It just kind of feels like this season has just been going on for so long, and it feels like it's been forever since I've been on here spending time and talking to you guys. So thank you all so much for choosing to spend your evening with me, and thank you all that watched the season back there in October. We've had a little bit of a break. It was kind of an unplanned break. We were hoping to continue and do these Behind the Screams on Thursday nights after each of the live episodes aired. However, unfortunately, with the busy October and November season, we haven't been able to continue like we had wanted to with all of that. So hopefully you guys can hear me okay. The audio here, I was having a little issues with my mic here just a little bit earlier, but we had an extended break where we were going and doing different tours on Thursday nights, as well as both Christy and I have been traveling, had some prior family commitments and such. So just a whole lot going on. Hope everyone has had a wonderful holiday season here so far. I know we're very, very close to Christmas. This is the closest that Thanksgiving has hit to Christmas in quite some time. So it's quickly approaching on us here. But I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I am so thankful to be here, and I'm thankful that things are going as well as they are, and that we are heading into a great holiday season. So we got a lot to talk about. Want to say hello to everyone that's over here in the chat room here. Hello to Miss Sonia Thompson. Excuse me. It's pretty cold here, and so for some reason my voice don't want to cooperate here. Hello, Sonia Thompson. Hope you're doing well and staying warm. Mr. Daryl Paulette there with the Clover Hill Village. Hope you all had a wonderful spooky season, and hope things are going well up there in lovely Virginia. Miss Dee Dee, the dream interpreter herself. It's great to see you. It's been a few minutes. I know Dee Dee tuned in to every episode and investigated with us on the live. So it's always good to see you on that. Mr. Jim Cody, hello. I'm doing very well, and I hope you are too, sir. No, you've had a lot of good things going on. Saw your post. Congratulations on becoming a deacon there. So congratulations on that. And then hello to Miss Jolly Goins. I hope you're doing well. Anyone over in the chat room, if you have any questions or comments about tonight's episode, go ahead and put those there in the comments section. If you don't mind putting them in all caps, I'd greatly appreciate that. And hello to Mr. Ronnie Anderson. I hope you're doing well over there with Bedford Paranormal. So a whole lot of things going on. So I've got a little list here of different things that I kind of want to talk about before we get to tonight's live Behind the Screams. And of course, that episode is going to be like our typical episodes that we do, where we talk about the different episodes during our season. And tonight we're going to be talking about season 7, episode 3. And I have not had the opportunity to go back and review all of the video, as well as review all of the static cameras. I think I had on this one, I had about 6 static, and I'm sorry, I've got cats acting all dramatic here behind me. And so anyways, I've not had the opportunity to go back. I think I had 6 different static cameras that were set up, and we caught some pretty interesting things on those static cameras. But again, with travel, I've had some family things going on that I've had to take care of. Had a recent death in the family over Thanksgiving, and so I do appreciate all of the messages, calls, as well as condolences and prayers. Always, always, always appreciated. So please bear with me on this as we kind of go through all this. But I want to talk about some really cool and interesting things that's going on. If you missed our earlier episode of our Jailhouse Informant podcast, we covered some of the really cool and interesting things that we've got going on. We opened up our 2025 schedule for our paranormal investigations through the end of August. We will be opening September through December. Coming up here in February, we've got both Christy and I have some speaking engagements that we're trying to get those kind of finalized and nailed down before we open the end of our calendar. But we do have those open for investigations at the historic Scott County Jail, as well as the Village of Historic Rugby. And you're going to want to get on there and get those booked up, because those do book up pretty quick. So this past year, we had a lot of dates get booked up early on. So hopefully, if you all are looking to investigate, you'll be able to do that. Also, you're going to want to take advantage of a special that we've got going on during the that was kind of weird. We've got, like I said, there are cats running around everywhere around here. Feral Farms is up and hopping, apparently. Anyways, so we do have we are offering a special during the darker months. We're taking advantage of those long nights from January to early March, where you get 2 extra hours for an investigation. You'll get 7:30 p.m. to 4 a.m. there at the jail, and we're offering it every single night of the week, starting for I think January 3rd up until March, I believe March 15th, whenever the time changes. So you'll definitely want to go and check that out as well. And so let's see, I'm just kind of looking here at the comments section. Hello, John. Well, we got 2 Johns here. We got John M. and we got John Keller. Hello. And yeah, Dee Dee, that is what I think I've named my farm, is Feral Farms, because there are so many creatures here that we've been taking in here on the farm. It's been ridiculous. I think the other night I had a nice big old 30-pound possum that decided was going to come and hang out with my cats. And Vicky says, will you be doing live streaming when you do your investigations? Yeah, I'll be doing live streaming during some of the different investigations. Absolutely. We had 5 different investigations that we live streamed during the month of October that we're catching up on now. If you missed those, I hope you'll go check them out. And then some future investigations that are coming up, we will be definitely doing some live streaming on that. So thank you so much for your question. I know I definitely enjoy doing those live streams, and I enjoy being able to investigate with you guys. It just it brings such a cool, fresh approach to this, and it really helps when you're a solo investigator, having other folks there doing the investigating with you. It really helps stimulate those ideas and really get some pretty cool activity just from the collective investigating group that's there. So yeah, definitely. And glad you can make it, D Hoot. It's always wonderful to see you. And okay, so let's talk about some of the different events that we've got going on. Starting this Saturday at the Village of Historic Rugby, we're going to be set up there this weekend as well as next weekend. So it'll be the 7th and the 14th of December here, we're going to have a table set up there in the visitor center. Rugby is having their Christmas at the Village of Rugby. If you go to the Historic Rugby Facebook page, you will see under the events section, you will see all the very cool things that they've got going on. And actually, let's see, I've pre-pulled a few things up. Let me go ahead and pull this up as well. Because it's a lot of fun and there's a lot of really cool things that are going on there at the Historic Village of Rugby. And some of these do require advanced ticket purchases for the dinner that they're having, as well as some of the tours of homes. But let me go ahead and pull this up. Thank you all so much for bearing with me on this. Yeah, so Christmas at Rugby, they've got it broken down. If you go to that section, I hope you'll come check it out. They have, let's see, they've got a complete list of the festivities, but as far as the general information, it's going to take place starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Tickets are $20 for adults. Children 17 and under are free. The festivities includes tours of select private historic homes, including Ingleside, which is one that you don't typically get to go in, starting from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern time. Tours of Rugby's historic buildings, and that would be of the typical ones that are included on their tour, as well as the ones that are included on our tour that we do there at the Village of Rugby. The Rugby Coronet Band is going to be having their holiday classic and sing-along at the Visitor Center from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Local artisans and crafters are going to be at the Visitor Center. That's where we'll be from 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. They're going to have their lessons and carols over at the Christ Church Episcopal, which is across the street. And everything inside of that church from 1887 is all original. Everything from the kneelers to the paint to the lighting, it's the stained glass. It's all original. It's worth coming just to see this building. We don't include it on our night tours because we're talking about ghosts and such, and so they are only open during the day tours. But it is fantastic and worth the trip just to see that. And then they have their Christmas tree lighting ceremony at the gazebo at 5:30 p.m. They're going to be having a concert at 8 p.m. Eastern in the Rebecca Johnson Theater, and that's going to be taking place both Saturday nights, this week and next. And then there's going to be a food truck there, as well as Rugby's Victorian Christmas dinner, and you do have to purchase those tickets in advance for that. Because that I think that sells out pretty quick, but there's cocktails at 6 and a 5-course meal. And so they've got the listing of what their what the menu is, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. So if you go and check out Historic Rugby Facebook page, you will see under the events Christmas at Rugby. And so you're definitely not going to want to miss that, because that's something that's really cool. And we're really proud of that partnership that we have with the Village of Rugby. I mean, it's just absolutely awesome. We will not be doing night tours either of those 2 Saturday nights because the concert goes kind of late. And so because there's so much going on around the village, we don't want to interrupt and do that. So we will resume the tours all other nights except for those the 2 Saturday nights here during the month of December. So the 7th and the 14th, we won't be having after dark tours or private paranormal investigations at the village. We will, however, be having them at the jail, and we are doing our Ghosts of the Past at Christmas, which will take place there at the historic Scott County Jail. And so we have all of that information. If you go and check out, I'm just going to pull this up right here. If you go and check out the historic scottcojail.com or go to our Facebook page, you will find all that information if you key in Historic Scott County Jail. So we hope you'll join us on one of our tours. We do have a couple, if you want to squeeze in an investigation before Christmas, we do have a couple of those, as well as escape rooms and guided ghost hunts. But just know we've got our calendar open for the new year, and so you'll be able to take advantage of that by visiting that page. If you want to find out more information about our rugby tours, go to historyhighwayshaunts.com, and you can find all the information about both of our locations and all the different tours and private paranormal investigations that we offer. Okay, so a couple other things that we've got going on. I mean, we are at no shortage of events that are coming up. And let's see, kicking off the start of the year, we're going to be part of the Offbeat Horror Con and True Crime Convention. And that's going to be taking place in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Let me find that link right there. Here we go. We're going to be part of that, both me and my business partner, Dr. Christy Sumner. We're going to be joined by some really great guests, Miss Karen Conti, who was John Wayne Gacy's final attorney, Judy LaChance, she's with Effigy Paranormal, Rob Graves, owner of Fox Hollow Farms, which Fox Hollow Farms, I'm really, really interested in that one because that is somewhere that's kind of a bucket list location for me. If you don't know the story on that, and the owner of Save a Lot stores there who murdered all of those guys on his property, that's a really cool place with a really, really fascinating story. So Rob Graves, he is the owner of Fox Hollow Farms. That's going to be there. Dr. Christy Sumner and I will be there. I'll be talking about Ghost Biker as well as the historic Scott County Jail. She'll be talking about Soul Sisters and historic Rugby After Dark. Barry Gaunt, and Beth Allen of Octagon Hall are going to be there, as well as Alex Hawkins, the grandson of serial killer Judy Bluengrant. Sorry, I cannot read, apparently. I cannot talk either. Baldonado is going to be there. So that is going to take place January 11th, and it's the True Crime and Paranormal Expo that's going to be taking place at the Capitol Theater there in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So we're excited that we will be a part of that. And we'll have more information posted on our pages there. So hopefully you'll be able to check that out. Let's see what else we got here. Another really cool convention. We're going to be part of, I think I pulled this up. Actually, I did not. Here we go. And then oops, I've got a lot of messages popping up here. And then we'll skip February and head on over into March. And I'm excited to be a part of the Vet City Con, which is going to take place at the National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So going to be making 2 really cool trips up there to Kentucky. And there's going to be a lot of great guests involved with this. This is a really big convention that it's more of a horror con that's going to be taking place. But, Bowling Green, Kentucky is such a cool place. I mean, it's just 30 minutes from Octagon Hall, as well as the Old Stone Jail there in Franklin, Kentucky. It's just north of Nashville, across the state line. So a lot of really cool things that's going to be going on with that. I don't have a whole lot of information on this one just yet, but I will have a booth there with Christy as well, and we'll be talking about our respective teams as well as our locations. And I think we're going to get some stage time on both of these 2 conventions where we'll be able to talk about what we're doing and hopefully actually have some new Ghost Biker merchandise that we'll be revealing here at the first of the year. Can't wait to do that. I'm really excited about that. So we'll have some of that stuff, and we will have it on the online store as well. But that's going to be coming up on March 29th. And then skip on ahead into April, and I'm so excited that this convention is coming back. Here we go. EnigmaCons is back. And of course, we've got a couple of the organizers here in the chat room if they're still on here. But I'm very excited to be a part of this again. This is going to be I guess technically my fourth time coming up and being part of EnigmaCons. And Bedford Paranormal, St. Albans, I mean, the conventions don't get any better than this. And if you're looking for an opportunity to go to St. Albans and a really cool convention to visit, this is definitely one that you're going to want to be a part of, because we got Ronnie Anderson on here that he and his team, Angie and Alan and Daryl, all these folks, they do such a wonderful job putting this together. It's all about the fine details. And these guys, they've been doing it for what, Ronnie, have y'all been doing this for what, 8 years now? 8, 9 years? They know how to put these conventions on. So this is a lot of fun. They've got some really, really great speakers. You won't be disappointed. You're going to come, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to see some great vendors. And then, of course, what else can I say? St. Albans. I mean, this location is just so much fun to investigate. You never know what you're going to get. So again, I am truly honored to be a part of this convention, and I'm actually very excited to be buckling down and kicking off this year, because last year I did very, very few events and conventions focused on the jail, focused moving into the bank building, focused on getting all that. So yeah, can't wait to kick it off strong here in 2025 with some really amazing conventions already lined up. And then another one here that is going to be absolutely a first time for me is the Wisconsin Cryptids, Anomalies, and Paranormal Convention. Last month, I was on Barnaby Jones's podcast, and I had the opportunity to meet Barnaby there, and he is with CAPS Wisconsin. And so I had the opportunity to meet him at the Hey Good Mill convention back last year there in Pickens, South Carolina. And so got to meet him, listen to him do his presentation. And when he talks about cryptids and such, I mean, you want to listen, because it is so interesting. And so anyways, he had me on his show, and we ended up really kind of hitting it off and talking about his convention that he's having there. Again, Wisconsin Cryptids, Anomalies, and Paranormal Convention. And it takes place in Appleton, Wisconsin. I'm going to maximize this just so you can see it rather than see me over there. So it's going to be taking place there, and it is going to be Mother's Day weekend, May 9th through May 11th. I'm going to get to go on one of my first Bigfoot hikes, and what better place to do that is in Wisconsin, where they've got some pretty cool Bigfoot activity. So this is their inaugural event, and they've got their pricing. It's going to kick off with a VIP meet and greet dinner, followed by a Bigfoot expedition with some special guests. The convention is on Saturday, and they've got speakers and vendors, and they're going to be releasing, looks like a documentary. They're going to have a psychic gallery reading. Lots of really cool things. They've got their pricing on there. We will be sharing a link to this. And then on Sunday, they're going to wrap everything up with 2 paranormal investigations. They've got these split up. They're keeping the numbers small, from what I understand. I think they're keeping it to maybe 10 on the investigation, and they're going to be like a 4 or 5 hour investigation at a really neat location. So, and I think they're going to do it, if I'm understanding right, from like noon until 12. And then the other will be like from 5 to 9, something like that. We will have more information as the event gets a little closer. And hopefully I'll be able to have Barnaby on the show where he'll be talking about um, some of the really cool things that is going on with this event. So definitely go on there, check it out, and if you're going to be up in the area, come see us, because this is going to be my first time in Wisconsin. I think there's like 5 states in the U.S. that I've not been to yet, and Wisconsin is one of them. So once I go there, I guess there'll be about 4 left that I've not been to, and those are over on the Pacific coast. So are the others. So hopefully maybe 2026 be able to hit a few of those states. But yeah, really looking forward to it. And let's see if there was anything else. I believe that is it as far as the events that we've got coming up. I say, that's it. Like there's, there's not that many, but yeah, a lot of really cool things that you want to check out. So let's kind of get to season 7, what we've been talking about here, or what we're going to be talking about, what we did here during the month of October. Season 7 was such a blast, being able to hit these antique shops, antique stores, oddity shops, and collections. And again, some of you tuned in for every single episode, and I really, really appreciate that. We had some amazing and unique things happen that hopefully when I re-release these episodes, we can talk a little bit more about in a little more detail. And if you haven't watched the episodes, if you would, please go back, watch them, and send me your timestamps of some of your favorite spots, some of the things that maybe I didn't catch during the live or that we didn't address during the live. Sometimes you don't see those things until you go back and rewatch. But we're going to be talking tonight about episode 3, which took place at Gateway Antiques there in Dahlonega. And so, this one was interesting to me because this one actually had quite the reputation of activity. It was a little bit of a quieter location. I don't know if it was the timing. We did have a few more people on site than what we typically have, but it was fun nonetheless. And just learning about the unique history. We did 2 locations in Dahlonega. The first one was episode 1, and it was more kind of out, a little bit more out in the country. It was Dipsy Doodle Antiques. And then we went to, the next week, we went to an undisclosed location there in northeast Georgia. I was about to say Alabama, northeast Georgia. And then we came back to Dahlonega and went to the downtown historic district. So the interaction was just, it honestly blew my mind of some of the different things that we experienced there. So just kind of looking over here in the comments here, just to make sure I don't miss anything. Nancy, yeah, I have actually I've actually had quite a full plate the last little bit. So yeah, we're kind of jumping back. I've got to kind of jog my memory on some of the things that happened there. And then, as Ronnie says, I had a lot of interesting interactions at all the locations. I did. And, while some of the locations that I've covered in previous episodes, previous seasons have been so interesting to me, and some of them a little bit creepy, I got to say, I think the locations that I covered in season 7 has been one of my favorites so far. And it's been because of several things. One, because these locations have never been investigated before. And I think that adds a whole different level to the way we have to investigate, as well as doing them all live. I mean, that takes it up a notch too. The history behind it. And then just the fact that I felt like during the entire episode or during the entire season, I was surrounded by thousands of, and I'm not even I'm not even exaggerating, thousands of trigger items. And so the activity we were experiencing could have been from so many different things. It could have been from the location itself. It could have been from an item in the store. It could have been from the history. And I'm going to say, from investigating the different places, it could have even been from me and the energy that I was bringing in, because on several occasions, I felt like whatever we were interacting with was, at least in the last couple episodes, I felt like something was kind of following me in several of these locations. So I'm kind of interested to dive into that a little bit deeper, and maybe even go back and visit some of these locations to spend a little bit more time in there. Um, just being surrounded by that setting, and the fact that each of these locations were all, we made almost a triangle there in North Georgia. Um, just being in Georgia itself, I think probably led to some of the different activity that we had. Also, I think, in most of the locations, the last two locations that we investigated, I was completely alone in those. Now, and then in a couple of the others, we had the owners of the location in those places, or we had, I had a special guest. Sonia helped me out in episode 2 at the undisclosed location. But the interaction was just, in my opinion, from what I've experienced in my paranormal journey, it's been unlike anything I've experienced before. Very intelligent, um, not not creepy and scary. There were a few dark instances, but for the most part, just good, solid, unexplainable type activity. I do have to say, my opinion has really changed on the Ovilus 5. I don't know if it's the fact that it was the type of location we were in, and I'm kind of led to believe that the Ovilus works really well in a type of setting like that, where you can almost go on a scavenger hunt, um, and really kind of utilize that tool for that purpose. I think that it works really well in these type locations, and my opinion has kind of changed on that, because there were several things that happened throughout the season that I have no idea how to explain. Janet mentions that the angel, that had to be probably one of my most personal favorites. And in the next episode, I ended up buying that little angel bank, and so I'll pull that out in the next episode whenever we're talking and such. But I think that's probably, that whole thing, that is one of my favorite things of the season. But that's probably one of my most favorite. I would have to list that in my top 5 favorite experiences of my entire paranormal journey and investigation, because I have no idea how to explain that. And for it to have happened live was pretty amazing. And then Nancy mentions the jewelry lady. That was really cool. So that's something kind of going back to the first episode there in Dahlonega. Now, what's interesting. So let's kind of jump back. So we had Dipsy Doodle there, and then we had Gateway. Both of those locations were owned by Kim and Colby Strom, and Kim and her son Jared. They were we were really excited to have them on site during both investigations, because being a location owner myself, I believe that when you're immersed in these locations, and they essentially become an extension of the owners in there, and I feel like the owners start to develop a relationship with these spirits and entities that are within. And these two locations were no exception to the rule. Both of them, Kim, her husband, and her sons, they spend so much time in these locations. Sometimes you're in these locations more than you're inside your own home. And so they know their items, they know their locations, they know their vendors. And I think that that was something that kind of led to some really cool activity. Now, when we were in their first store in Dipsy Doodle, we were getting activity from a lady that seemed to be attached to costume jewelry, and the Ovilus was responding very intelligently with that. I do think that we maybe started to get a little bit of activity related to this jewelry lady there at Gateway. But what's interesting is that the lady that we think we were talking to, Gail, I believe was the name. When she was alive, she really liked Dipsy Doodle as far as the activity. I mean, as far as the jewelry that they had there, a little more than she liked the jewelry there that they kept at Gateway. And so I think that kind of showed, because we got a little bit of activity from Gail. I think I need to go back and watch, but I think we actually got the name Gail while we were there in Gateway, which was pretty fascinating. But we didn't get a whole lot of activity from that. Let's see, just kind of looking at the comments here. Yeah, I completely agree with both Dee Dee and Nancy on that. Let's see, Bob, just the fact you are only on the air a couple hours, and in that time you get so much activity speaks volumes to these locations. 100%. I think that so at all of these different locations, I was on live at least 2 hours. I think there were a couple of the places I was on for a little bit closer to 3 hours, but most of them I was on for 2 hours. So I tried to be, I could go and I think I could sleep in some of these locations, but I tried to be respectful, especially of the ones that, were I was able to get in just after they closed and was able to stay on live for 2 hours. Some of them I tried to spend some time in beforehand, between an hour to an hour and a half, at least, trying to talk to them and explain what I'm doing. And then a little bit of time after we go off the live. It's a little hard sometimes because of the equipment drain. And then, just after doing a longer live, it's a little bit harder. But I completely agree that just the very short period of time and the amount of activity that we were getting was pretty incredible. And I think it speaks a lot about the locations, and I think it speaks a lot about you all that tune in and watch, because consistently every week we had a lot of people on, and everyone was interacting, and the questions, the comments, and it was very consistent. And I'm so proud of that, and the fact, the help, and the fact that you all were there watching. So that was really, really cool. And then Dee Dee says, for me, it confirms that something stays with favorite possessions. Yeah, I think so. Whether it be an energy deposit, like as far as the Angel Bank, and I was talking about this the other day, I don't think that the Angel Bank is haunted. I've not had the opportunity to investigate that since I've got it here, but I don't think that that is a haunted item, but I think it validates that there was somebody in there that really liked it. The owner themselves even said, they had moved that item in there, and that they were, they felt like that was something that someone really liked. I feel like that does really confirm that they are aware of what's going on in their items, and that I think that energy does stay with those possessions. And why not, in such a cool place like an antique store that's got toy rooms and music areas, we all have our own favorite things, and so how cool to be surrounded by some of those different items, and the connections that we have. I had a really cool conversation with Kim, and she was telling me a story about a lady who had come in to the store, and she was talking about some of the different connections that people have with some of the items, and the lady brought these. They were like some old Corel, I believe they were Corel bowls, and she came up to the front and she was crying whenever she brought them up to purchase, and she said, my mom had some bowls just like this. And so it brought all these memories back. So even if they're not yours and you don't have a connection to them, just think of the memories and the connections that seeing some of these different items can bring up. And that's pretty amazing and cool. And I think that that emotion and those connections, I think that brings out some really interesting activity. So just hearing those stories were something that was really cool to me, and I hadn't really even thought of it that way. Um, I'm a very sentimental person, and I love history, obviously, and love items that helps me to reminisce and think of the past, and it's amazing how a smell like a perfume, or the feeling of something, or the comfort of something, how that can bring back those memories. So I think that that's something that's worth exploring a little bit deeper. But I just personally myself, I hadn't actually thought about that, and how going into some of those antique stores, how that can bring those memories and stuff about. Um, so let me look right here. Yes, Ronnie, I definitely believe that there was some type of connection to the bank there. Um, Jim Cody, thank you uh, for your comment and for recognizing that. We do, and that's something that we take a lot of pride in. And I feel like I always wish every time I go to a location, I wish I could spend more time, and I always want to go back because I feel like I leave with more questions than I do answers. And I'm definitely going to be making a trip back to some of these locations here in Georgia and actually exploring this a little further. I've had a couple other antique stores and collectors who've reached out to me since I did this season. And I'm hoping starting into the new year to actually do a few more of these live investigations at some more antique stores, kind of carry that further, because I think that this was something that was really, really cool, that I feel like it was a really nice step back to the original Ghost Biker episodes of covering these unique, smaller locations. I'm not knocking the commercial locations. I have two, and I love those. And that's what helps keep the doors open on these places. But I feel like this season was really a nice step back to what Ghost Bikers' original intention was. And so, being able to utilize the paranormal to essentially uh, research these places, but also bring awareness to these stores. It's no secret 2024 has been a tough year for a lot of businesses and a lot of places, and it's nice to be able to use your platform to be able to introduce people to new places and give them new things to want to check out. So we hope that that you will, if you don't go and visit one of these antique stores, that you'll go and visit your local antique store and help them out. Let's see here. Um, Definitely, it could very well be like Night at the Museum, at the antique shops. I love Night at the Museum, so it very easily could. And and then Nancy says a lot of the younger generation are starting to buy older items. Most definitely, vintage and retro, all of that is in. Um, I mean, just decorating your house in the older style is something that is really cool. Um, and definitely good to get off the beaten path. I prefer that all the time because, honestly, we're not at a shortage of. If anyone ever tells you there's nowhere to investigate, they're not a they're not a true investigator because there is always somewhere and there's always unique and interesting history to be found. Um, I mean, I was thinking on those antique shops, and honestly, I could have probably spent I could have probably spent a whole season on one store just covering an episode in some of the different booths. The way some of these antique shops were laid out and the way that just the booths themselves and the stories that each of these items could hold. I think we could do an episode every night for a year and probably not cover everything in all of these locations that we visited. And so I'll get to this one question here, and then we're going to talk just a little bit more about Dahlonega and the episode. That's a good question, Bob. I wonder if on the other side they talk to each other, network, etc., just like we do. I don't know. That's a good question and a good possibility, especially with the way you know, I mean, there's times it seems like you're in some of these places and it seems like there's conversation and interaction going on, and they seem like they don't know that, another spirit is there. I know when I did Old Southern Funeral Home in season 2, episode 2, I believe it was, I was sleeping in there with my camera guy, Josh, and there was a conversation going on between two people. We were the only two in there. We were asleep, and there were two spirits talking while we were sleeping, and they were talking about us. So they were aware of what we were doing. They were having an intelligent conversation. So I think that is very possible. Again, there's times it seems like there's things going on at the jail, and it seems like they're either in two different time frames and they don't really interact with each other. That's there, like things are happening simultaneously in different eras, if you will. But then I kind of wonder if there is a network, because there's times that you get crossover of activity from other places, and I think that a lot of the time, I believe what we bring in, our energy draws some of these interactions and some of these spirits out. And you can see it with the teams that come into the jail. If they have good energy attached to them, and if they are just a good cohesive bunch and they're friends, and they're not distracted by all the other negativity and stuff around, things seem to happen. It's almost like they know they're coming. So that would make sense of a network, if they know. So I don't know. It's a really good question that would be good to look into. And as Dee Dee says, reminds me of the TV show Ghosts, where all the time periods are there together. Yeah, it does make you wonder. And that'd be a cool thing too. It'd be cool to think of some different experiments, because just in the jail itself, even rugby, there's a lot that are overlapping time periods. So it'd be interesting to do some different experiments to see. And I'm totally open. If you guys have any thoughts on any experiments you'd like to try that kind of tests some of that, I know the perfect place to do it. All we just got to do is set up a time, and well, let's do some more experiments. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Okay, So let me and while because we've got quite a few people on watching, I do want to make sure. So again, we like to promote things that are going on at these locations. I know that both Gateway Antiques as well as Dipsy Doodle Antiques have got a lot of really cool things going on with Christmas. And Christmas in Dahlonega is absolutely beautiful. It's like a Hallmark movie. I think they even market it that way. So please go on and check out these pages. Now is a great time to go and visit either of these locations. Let's see. Let me make sure let me pull up Gateway Antiques. There we go. Now is a great time to go and visit them while you're in the area. And we'll throw Dipsy Doodle up there before we go. But they've got a lot of really great things. Vintage Christmas. I mean, they're decorated so beautiful this time of year, and you may find some great Christmas presents for yourself or for a loved one. So definitely go and check them out. I think they're open 7 days a week, and their page, Gateway Antiques, you can find all their information there on Facebook alone. The other that I wanted to make sure to highlight and we'll be talking about this in 2 more behind the screens, but I definitely want to make sure to pull this up right now. Here we go. Whoops. Okay, so if you followed the season, you'll know that in my final episode, in the season finale, we investigated Nerd.ee, which was a comic book store. So again, that's not an antique store, but it's a collection. And we covered that, and they've got a really cool event getting ready to come up, one of their big events that they're working on. Matt is he's a former Marine, and whoops, let me pull up the page. He's a former Marine, and so one of the events that they do a lot of work for is Toys for Tots. And so coming up this Saturday, Championship Wrestling Gauntlet Legends is doing their wrestling event. And so you're definitely going to want to join them December 7th at 7 p.m. And that's for the Nerd.ee Championship Wrestling Gauntlet Legend. And it's going to be there in Commerce, Georgia at the Commerce Cultural Center. Gosh, try to say that 5 times fast. Commerce Cultural Center in Commerce, Georgia. You're definitely going to want to check that out. The doors are going to open at 6. The bell will ring at 7, and all the proceeds there, and they're asking you to bring in toys, and it goes to Toys for Tots, which is something that is extremely important, especially in these southern rural towns. It's always good for kids to have a good Christmas. So yeah, that's coming up there with Nerd.ee. I wanted to make sure to mention that, even though we're not talking about Nerd.ee just yet. That's their big event. We were promoting it back in October, but wanted to make sure to put that out there. Whew. Okay. So wow, it's always crazy when I don't have a guest on here, and I feel like I'm just sitting here kind of rambling and talking. So thank you all again for listening to us. And let me take a drink, and we're going to talk a little bit about Dahlonega. Okay. All right. So Dahlonega, if you've never been there, is such a beautiful little town. It can be very crowded this time of year, from what I understand, but it is the site of America's first gold rush. A lot of people, the first major gold rush, a lot of people don't always realize that. When you think of gold rush, you think of California and, the 49ers and the Gold Trail and all of that. But this was the site of our first major gold rush. Take place here, and it started there in 1829. Dahlonega has the Gold Museum. It sits right there in the heart of the city of Dahlonega, and I want to pull up just so you're aware of where this is located at. So when we traveled down, it was about a 4.5 hour drive for me, depending on which direction you go in. It was a little bit longer because of the hurricane that took place, and so normally I would cut down through North Carolina, but I wasn't able to do that this time. Had to cut down a little bit more to the west side and cut over. But yeah, located up there in the beautiful mountains of northeast Georgia. Actually, I guess it'd kind of be northeast, north central, more over to the east side Georgia. So always wanted to make sure to kind of show where that's located, so you guys kind of know where we're talking about. But yeah, so like I said, it's located there in the beautiful area. There's so many really cool things to do. If you go right into downtown, there's a lot of shops that you can walk to. I think there's 3 or 4 antique shops really close by. I was able to do the Gold Museum. I guess it's been about 5 or 6 years ago when I did that, and it was a really eye-opening experience. But so there in 1829, the first documented discovery of gold was made there in Georgia. So you had a lot of people coming down to the area at the time. There in Georgia at the time that all of this was going on, there was a lot of Native American activity that took place there in that area because of the gold rush. The Native Americans were sort of ushered out of the area. They were right there at the Cherokee Nation, and let's see. From what I understand, I need to really get my history here in front of me. However, at that time, was when they started ushering the folks out of the area. And so some of the activity that we were getting in that area, we do believe may have had to do with some of the Native Americans in the area, also from some of the Native American artifacts that was there in the museum, in the antique shop itself. Now, I do kind of want to cut over here briefly. Before dinner, before the investigation, I was able to have dinner with Miss Nikki, who is a historian there in Dahlonega, and she also used to do the ghost walks that are there in the town itself. And so she was wonderful enough to sit down at dinner with us and share some of the ghost stories and some of her theories behind the activity that is experienced there in Gateway Antiques. And so she kind of shared a little bit of the history of Dahlonega itself. So I do want to pull that up real quick, and I'm going to play that. Unfortunately, Nikki did have to leave kind of early. Her elderly mother needed her assistance. So I'm going to pull that up. If you missed that, I'm going to play that real quick. So let's see if we can cue that up. Since I'm playing this over the phone here, or over the computer, it may be kind of delayed, but let's see what we got. Thank you so much for taking the time to come in here tonight. Tell us a little bit about Dahlonega itself, and then any paranormal activity that you can tell us about.
Well, welcome to Dahlonega, Georgia. We are an old mining town. And as an old mining town, most of us think about the gold that we have here. But we weren't just mined for gold. We were mined for gold, silver, copper, for sapphires, and quartz. And quartz is well known for helping the energies of the spirit world. And so is the gold. It's a very active area. And even underneath our feet here, there is unmined gold. And we think that most of the activity probably comes from our town and our region acting like a battery.
Okay. And that makes perfect sense as essentially a battery, like you said, or even a conductor of just, yeah.
The quartzes and the gold especially, think about a watch, not a digital, but our original watches. They were quartz crystal, and that helps the energy move. So, of course, this is why we're very, very active. We're not a very large town. Now our population is around 10,000. When gold was first found, it was population of less than 100 people.
Okay.
And it blew up into 10,000 within just a few months.
And what year was that when they found the gold?
That was in the 1820s.
Okay.
Now, gold was struck here first. This was the first big gold strike in the United States. 10 years later, we have the strike out in California.
Okay.
So our miners quite often moved from here out to the California gold rush. And one of our miners was a woman, and she went out there not to mine, but to run a general store and do washing for various men. And she was the one that proved some of the strikes out there, because she knew if you drop gold into a lye bath, it stays gold, while iron pyrite will melt away.
Okay.
Our town is very unusual. We have Colonel Price. It's probably our favorite spook of the region. He apparently really likes kitchens. Now, Colonel Price was a real person here. We know about his history. He's the one that made sure college ended up here. He helped form it out of our original stamp mills and all the mining. When that activity started to go down, all of our mints, because we had a mint here. Some of the oldest coins have a D, and that's from our mint, and not Denver. He transformed the mint into our college. He built several of the buildings here. He was very influential to bring money into the town and to keep it from falling to the wayside. However, he seems to have a very, very soft spot for this town, and he never left. He's the one that everybody says likes to spend the time in the kitchen. We have many restaurants in the town, and his thing, he likes to throw things in the restaurants. Now, he's not trying to hurt anybody, but he will throw small pots and pans and spatulas, and heaven forbid, don't play rap music, because he's going to turn off your sound system. He's done it several times in various locations. He's my personal favorite, because when I gave ghost tours for the Dahlonega Gold Museum for the Friends as a fundraiser, he would come and turn out my lights whenever I said mean things about him.
So do you think we might experience him here tonight, maybe?
Well, I'm here, and he certainly likes to turn lights off on me. I won't stay very long, but I bet he will, because he does move through the entire downtown area.
Okay.
He's not linked to a specific building.
Okay. Now I know, as far as what we talked about a little bit earlier, that some of the claims, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes, but some of the claims are that children are seen, specifically a little girl is seen here inside of this building. What is your theory? We were kind of talking about that, and you had an interesting thought about, not necessarily anything tragic or anything that happened, but kind of the area they might be coming from.
Originally, just slightly across the street were two very old buildings. And they were not, one of them was not actually an original building to its location. And we did have a very nice upper class hotel on the corner. And that hotel, at one time, it was called the Eagle. Most of the stories that I know are from when it was the Burnside Hotel. And because it was an upper class hotel, it was one of the few where it was safe to bring your family when people came to court.
Okay.
People came to court for 1 week, every month, month and a half. Sometimes they only had court every 6 months. And everybody would come from the entire county. And if you were not staying with a relative or somebody that you knew, you would, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Shut up. You would stay.
Now I know she ended up getting a call and had to leave. But I appreciate the fact that Nikki came over. She talked to us and shared that history. Got a lot of really cool information from that because there's a lot of stories that she shared that sort of overlapped and went through some of the different buildings there in the town. And what's interesting about Gateway, where we were investigating, was that in the very back, and that's going to be one of the clips that I'm going to show here in just a little bit, was in the very back. There was an opening when they had the bathroom back there, an opening that went down into like this catacomb system that went under the ground there, and some of that was linked to some of the old mines that used to run underneath Dahlonega there, or that actually still run underneath Dahlonega, but they are closed mines. And so Colonel Price that she mentioned, I don't think we ended up having any activity that we were able to trace with Colonel Price. But it was fascinating with the stories she told, because she said that as she would tell certain stories, she mentioned the lights being turned off. As she would tell certain stories throughout the town, it didn't matter what spot she was telling it, the street light would go off when she would start talking about him. And she could be on a different street corner. The first 2 times it happened on the same street corner. And then as she went on and was telling her stories, she kind of thought, you know what, I'm going to change this up so we can test a theory to see if it is possibly him, or if it's just a random, street light that's maybe got a short in it or a bad bulb. And it didn't matter where she was telling that. When she would talk about him, he would turn the lights on and off. And as she said, he would, in the kitchen areas, he would throw things. Now, some of the different reports that come from Dahlonega there, or excuse me, from Gateway, is that there are children that are seen. We did set up cameras in the back. Some of the different vendors, one in particular, was there working her booth late at night, and she actually saw that the little girl, she was able to describe her, and she saw her there in the middle of the night. Now, there's a hat rack that we ended up investigating. The hats were known to be thrown on and off of the rack there across the room. There was also items that were on the wall that was said to be pulled off the wall, and then also a door in the very back that was said to open and close on its own. And that's just a few of the claims that they've got there at the antique store. Is a very common thing. And from the beginning, Kim told me that this was an extremely active location for her vendors, and it was not uncommon to have things happen and go on. We tried several interesting experiments there. One of them was a gentleman that has lots of military memorabilia. He brought several different items that were involved in conflicts. These items did actually see wartime conflict, and that were taken into battle. He brought those in. And we tried to kind of set them up. Some of these items were from the World War, and we tried to set up some that were on conflicting sides to see if that would trigger different types of activity. There's also some very, oh my gosh. Like I said, cats going crazy in here, knocking things off. Now, at least I think that was a cat. That my paranormal shelf is located over there with all my tools, and I think something just fell over there. So it's untelling. But anyways, what was I saying here? Oh, the items. There's a lot of really old and unique items in there, and one of them that I wanted to pull up. Let me cue up this video here. We showed it while we were there, but this is just one of the really cool pieces that
70s cameo.
oops, let me stop it here. This is just one of the really cool vintage items that is located inside of the store that we may have gotten some activity off of. So let me play this.
1860s, 1870s cameo. It's a shell cameo, Victorian era, and then it turns, and that is a mourning brooch, and that is plaited hair of somebody's beloved that has passed away. 1860s, 1870s cameo. It's a shell cameo, Victorian era.
Now that was just one of the pieces that that I thought was really cool there. So that was one of the pieces of mourning jewelry. I've never seen one that has the plaited hair like that. Very intricate, very, very cool. But they had some items from the Civil War. We showcased a lot of these different items in the video. Hope you'll go and check that out. There was a slave killer axe that was there. It was a Native American slave killer that was extremely old. There was some coins from the Roman Empire. There was some really, really interesting artifacts from Andersonville, which was the Confederate Civil War POW camp. That I mean, that's just a incredible history in and of itself. But there was some items from that they had there inside of the antique store. And one of the books from the Civil War, it was completely intact. I've never seen anything like it. So just going and looking at some of these different items that they have inside of the store is absolutely incredible. Now, like I said, I'm not going to showcase too many things from this episode, but I just wanted to talk about a few. One of the so we mentioned about the conflicting items. The other thing, let me find that timestamp there. There was back in the back, there was a booth, and I'm gonna cue this up. I'm not gonna play the. I'm just gonna kind of talk over it. I'll play the audio here in just a few minutes as we're talking. But there was a booth back in the back near the hats that and near the area where the children are seen. That was it was a rather macabre booth. And originally, like I said, I ended up getting there a couple hours at this one. They closed at 6. We went live at 9. We did dinner with Nikki, and then we were back there. So we were there a couple hours before the investigation, doing some pre-setup. Had a lot of flashlight activity inside of this particular booth. I think we end up turning the lights on here in just a few moments. But let me kind of skip forward right here. So this booth to me was rather fascinating because again, they had a lot of medical tools inside there. They had some books on Freemasonry. They also had Odd Fellows books inside of there. A lot of unique items, and several of the people who have booths in there, as well as Kim, the owner there, have said that they have felt some interesting things from this particular booth. The Ovilus was on point that night. We were getting some pretty incredible responses relating to some of these different items. I mean, we had false teeth in here. We had a bone saw, I believe. There was some old tin types. I mean, there was lots of really unique items inside of this particular booth. An old wheelchair, and even at one point, we ended up getting the word devil on the ovilus, and right up above the right up above where we were looking at was a Ouija board, and I think the box said the devil's board. And we ended up getting that right after the ovilus said that. So that was pretty incredible, and that was just a small example of what some of the stuff that we were getting with the ovilus, that was on point to some of the items that were inside of the booth. And the we didn't really get any millimeter spikes on this one, but the flashlight with the wheelchair was extremely responsive and extremely on point to the questions that we were asking. Um, I think I show the Ouija board. Let me just kind of turn the sound on there. Yep. There we go. Let's see what's going on. Is this the devil? Oh, the flashlight's flashing. Okay, I'm going to go back just a little bit right here. Yeah.
And I agree with Ron.
I feel sick staying in here. You feel older.
So Kimberly says it's coming from the right. And I agree with Ronnie Anderson. The Odd Fellows book had some strange rituals.
This just said poverty and older.
And so.
In one of the pictures,
Gone and David.
your thing is up above 0 too. I don't notice that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been staying at 0.2 and 3 the whole time. Do you know anyone that's in the pictures here? Well, here's a devil.
Actually,
Is this the devil? Oh, the flashlight's flashing. Yeah. This has a devil, and then somebody that's got their eyes covered with a crystal ball. That could be blind.
these are so over here, Miranda, we have Oddfellow and also have the Masonic Temple. Those are all ritualistic.
So, like I said, that was just a few of the things. If you go back, you'll see where the comments were made on the ovilus. And it was interesting because, sometimes the ovilus seems like it just kind of says weird, random things. But one of the things I thought was fascinating about that is while we were in that more macabre booth, we were getting things that seemed to kind of speak to a darker nature, or talking about rituals, talking about medical terms. There were it didn't seem as random as you would think when you started looking at all the stuff that was around you. Now, when we moved away from that particular booth and started looking at other items, then the tone changed. It was very different in comparison to some of the different responses we were getting. Now, one of the interesting things about this location is I felt the only way I can describe it was I felt very discombobulated and just like I really almost a state of confusion, and I was very overwhelmed in this particular store. I didn't feel this at the other places, but this was one of the things that I was feeling in this particular store, and I think I mentioned that several times throughout the investigation. Um, I wasn't sure at first if it was because, again, I'm not used to there being um, more than 2 or 3 people at an investigation. Usually there's not that many. Usually there's just 1 or 2 of us that's there. So I wasn't sure at first if it was because we did have Kim was there with me, Jared, and then I forget the other lady's name. Nikki left, but there was another lady that was there. So there was 3 there plus myself. So there was 4 of us. I first thought maybe it was because of that, but then I got to thinking that I was getting pulled in multiple directions while this was going on, and that I didn't really know what to focus on, and I felt like I couldn't focus. And I thought all of that in and of itself, I'm pretty focused, almost hyper focused when I'm on investigations. When I'm doing anything, I'm a little bit OCD about stuff, and I tend to really dive into the details and everything on these sort of things. But for some reason, on this particular location, I was having a really hard time doing that, and I think that sort of speaks to that location. Um, you know, this video here sort of shows the transition, just how different um, some of these different areas were. And it seemed like when we did not get any hits on the tripwire, which was unusual because at the other locations we were getting hits. We didn't start to get hits on the tripwire until we were overdoing the militaria experiment. And again, there was so many things we could do. 2 hours was just not enough to cover all of this. Again, we were really just scratching the surface. But the only time we ended up getting hits on that was when we were doing the militaria experiment. And of course, one of the other times that I want to jump to is, I'll pull this up right quick as well, because this kind of shows. We stepped back from that booth and we did some experiments with the hat rack. Again, I did have 6 different cameras sitting up, and those cameras had their own recorders to them. Also had motion lights set up. We really tried to cover this place as best we could. Now, I do want to note that we did, for the most part, we did have ambient lighting during the investigations. I don't always like to, if I'm doing a live, I don't like to investigate in 100% darkness, because I like for you to be able to see what's going on around me. And see, I don't like when people just show just a light in a dark room, because if you have ambient light, it's easier to see shadows and movement. Plus, it also creates a little sense of transparency. So in each of these locations, I tried to have ambient light and control for that. It's a little harder sometimes when you don't get a lot of time in a location and see how everything works. as far as their lighting and that sort of thing. But you do what you can, and that's the fun part of the live investigations, is that not everything goes as planned, and not everything works. There's no editing involved, and that's kind of beautiful. And that's also really cool that the people watching are patient and forgiving of all that. And then Ronnie says the Oddfellows book, I felt, had a lot to do with that part of the location. No, I agree. I think that that did play a lot into that. Each booth was different, and you're definitely on these. You're definitely shooting from the hip, no doubt about that. But I completely agree. The Ovilus, their replies were definitely very interesting. So what I'm going to do is I want to pull up. I know there's more to this, but I do want to pull up when we went back to the back. So there was a section in the very back where they kept the display cases. They also kept some of their tools and their storage in the very back area. That's also the area where the old bathroom was, that had the opening in the floor that went down into the old mining system. And so one of the stories is that when Colby and his nephew was back there working, that the door would open and close on their own. So we ended up putting a camera on the outside of the door, and we went onto the inside and sat down in there with one of the laser grids, and some pretty cool things happened. So let me go here, cue this up. Find my timestamp. And that's going to be at 2 hours in. Now, we were getting some voices and some knocking. I didn't have time to find that part, but I'm going to go here to this. And this is where we're sitting inside of that room. What? Doesn't, I mean everything's doing just fine. And then all of a sudden, when we were back, it just started going into sleep mode. So I don't know what is going on with that. So, like I said, we'll go for just a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna may have to stop here. We've been going for 2 hours now. Oh, that was the door. The door's moving. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Look at that. Holy crap. That was cool. Wow. Can you pull that door on open? The door is actually moving back and forth. Can you open the door on up just a little bit more and come on in? Okay. Can you slam that door? Can you slam it shut with me in here? I swear I just heard it. I've got a toy in there. If you're a kid, can you slam that door? I'll give you that toy. How about some candy? Maybe some smokes? Would you slam that door for some smokes? I'll leave you a whole pack of cigarettes. I'll be interested to see the camera out there. The music box did not go off, so there was nobody that was here that did that. Would you like a beer? Or maybe some Tennessee moonshine? I'm going to move into another area. Yeah, James, I agree. I think the music box should see the door move. All right. I'm going to go somewhere else. If you want me to leave, can you open that door for me? I'm getting some crazy battery drain on my phone, too. Something's just not been right since that military thing. If you want me to stay, will you shut the door? If you would like for me to stay and not leave, shut that door. Okay. Okay. So that's picking me up right here. So you would think when that door opened, I mean, Anybody that's watched my show knows how sensitive that music box. All right, I'll give you one more chance there. Go ahead and open and close that if you want. Okay, so a couple interesting things on that, and actually talked to James who made the music box for me the day after the show. Of course, he was watching the live there. So it's pretty incredible. That was really cool about the door opening. We were hearing knocks, and I think a lot of you heard those as well. I was just looking at the comments on that from the actual live episode. We were hearing some knocks and bangs. You all heard that happen in the moment. I did hear a voice. Now I was having some phone issues, which was really wild because once we did the military experiments, all of a sudden my phone got to where it started going into sleep mode and it would not drop out of, or it kept dropping into sleep mode. There was nothing I could do. After like 30 seconds, my screen would go black and it would cause sound glitches and it would cause video glitches. It seemed to show like we were kind of skipping a little bit. And it did that. That's actually one of the reasons I ended up getting off the live when I did. Because it kept, there was nothing I could do to keep it out of sleep or to keep it from going into sleep mode. So that started happening. And then while we were back there in the back, we were getting the knocks and bangs. And then all of a sudden the door opens. What's fascinating to me is that music box did not go off when the door opened. You saw where it was sitting. You could hear when I came to the door and was looking at the door being cracked open. When I moved to where the door was cracked, the music box was picking me up every single time. It should have picked up that door opening. Was there something in between blocking it? Why was it not picking up whatever caused the door to open? And what I don't understand is, even if the door, say for some weird reason, opened on its own, why did it not pick up that movement of the door opening? That music box is extremely sensitive. So was there something blocking that? I'm really, really fascinated to see what that camera that was on that front side of the door and that audio recorder picked up when that door opened. I always put an audio recorder with my external camera, so I'm really excited to see what that maybe captured. I'm very, very curious about that. We also had the REM pod go off one time back there in the back area. We couldn't find a reason as to why that went off. Actually, that is an interesting point that Ronnie brings up, that the door may be opened from the inside. That's possible. I mean, because we did hear some sounds before it happened. There was a knock that happened before that, and there was a voice that happened. But I still don't know. I still don't know why, even if it opened from the inside, why it didn't register the door opening, the movement of that, because it was clearly capturing me from the inside of the door. So I don't know. Interesting thing. And James and I were talking about that, and he knows how sensitive those things are. He couldn't really figure that out either. So those were a couple of my favorite moments from this episode. I know that we were hoping we might catch an apparition of a little girl, or hoping that we got a little more of the the activity that was mentioned to us during when we were talking to Kim and some of the other vendors, but it was really cool. It was a really cool location with a unique and interesting history, and we got some really interesting responses to our activity that night. So I'm very satisfied with that location. Can't wait to go back, check out a little bit more, dive in a little bit deeper, and maybe be there with a few less people there to see what kind of activity that brings up. But yeah, go back, check out that episode. We will be reviewing the footage. Hopefully after Christmas, we'll get some of the video and stuff released of actually clip down some of the different pieces of evidence there. But I thank you all so much for joining us live that night, for joining us live tonight, and participating in the conversation. I love having guests on, but I honestly love being able to take this opportunity to really just chat with you. I think that that's so much more fun to me. Anytime I can learn something, that's great, but being able to have that connection and that communication is something that is really special. So thank you, and thank you for choosing to spend your time here with us. Again, just a reminder, check out Christmas at Historic Rugby this weekend and next weekend, the 7th and the 14th. Also, if you are in the North Georgia area and if you like wrestling, check out the Toys for Tots Nerd.ee wrestling gauntlet there that's going to be going on. It supports a great cause. Or if you're down in the Dahlonega area, be sure to stop by Gateway Antiques and Dipsy Doodle Antiques and participate in their vintage Christmas, because you'll be glad you did. If you're looking for something interesting to watch next week, we will be doing, episode 4 of Behind the Screams, where we travel back down to North Georgia. We're going to be going to Lula, Georgia, and dissecting the episode that we did on Lula Mercantile. So go back, rewatch that episode. That was a really fun one. That location, I enjoyed that, and I was fascinated by the town. That town, I don't think you could find a smaller town on the map than Lula, but the history that is in that place, I always like to say it's a small town with a big history. So definitely go check that out. Watch that episode 4 of season 7, and join me next Saturday, my goodness. Join us next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, where we will be talking about the really cool things that we captured there at Lula Mercantile. And who knows, you may see something that we didn't see that night, and send me those timestamps. Or if you don't send them to me in advance, write them down and let's talk about them next Thursday night, about some of your favorite things that we captured there at Lula Mercantile. So until then, I hope you all have an amazing week. Get some really cool things done before the holiday season. Spend some time with your family, and please, by all means, stay warm. It's supposed to be like 9 degrees tonight here in East Tennessee. So definitely stay warm, and I really appreciate your very kind comments here, and appreciate you guys spending your time with me. So let's see. Ronnie says, go back in this podcast around the Nerd.ee conversation and listen to, I heard a male voice talking over you. That does not surprise me. I will say that since I did these locations, I've had some interesting things kind of happening around me. I do believe that there was some stuff that was essentially that kind of followed me around some of these locations. So I will definitely go. And Ronnie, just to clarify, is is that during when we were talking about Nerd U just now, or Nerd U earlier in the conversation when we were talking about their event? Just type that in there and let me know. But I will definitely go back and check that out. So and like I said, everyone go back and check out the episode and plan to join me next Thursday night. And then also plan to join. Okay. Thank you, Ronnie. And then plan to join us first at 7 p.m., where we will be on the Jailhouse Informant podcast, and then at 9 p.m. here on the Ghost Biker Explorations page. So, anyways, I will talk to you all soon. Stay safe, take care, keep warm, and I will see you next Thursday. Good night, everyone.